Hey, everybody. Welcome to Heal Yourself Naturally. I'm Nicole Jerome. I am here with Hava Wellness and Sarah Woods Kender. We are so excited for our podcast. And I just wanted to go over a couple of things. We are changing gears and diving a bit deeper into the topics we'll be discussing. And we wanted to start with skin and other extremities. So, we are going to do a three-part series on this topic. That way we can really get into the nitty-gritty of these issues. We're going to be breaking things down a little bit more formally with each topic. So I hope you guys enjoy the way we're going to start setting things up. So again, we're talking about skin today, mainly things like bruises, cuts, any kind of chapped skin, burns, and things like that. And each different issue we'll be discussing in depth. So we'll give it the time it deserves so that we don't skim over things like we typically do. We really want for our viewers to be able to look back on these podcasts and really be able to get solutions, not for just a broader topic, but for individual things. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the skin, our largest organ in our body, extremely important organ. We have touched base in the past talking about skin and how important it is to exfoliate it and clean it properly. But let's start with the topic of wounds. So any type of wound, whether it be like a cut or a scrape. I want to talk about cuts and scrapes first. Hava, will you please go over?
Okay.
Will you please go over a little bit about different types of cuts? You know, we
Right.
have just surface ones, deeper wounds, what you can do to clean, heal, and preserve the skin. You know, scabbing.
Right.
Yeah, and limit scarring, which is important as well for some people, or
Right.
for most people, really.
Okay. Thank you so much, and I'm so happy that we're doing this way, so that way people will learn, and we will help to people get rid of the fear, which is the most important part. And now let's dive into the wounds. Now let's say there is a obviously there is many kind of wounds. There is a scrapes, there is a scratches, there is a wound that caused from nail, deep wounds, but they all come into the kind of overall um, um, conclusion. How you say overall base? Let's put it this way: the body knows what to do. Your job is just to help and give some proper tools. In many cases, when we hear people get wounds, we might see a gushing blood, and whenever we see a gushing blood, or we have scrapes, and we'll first, let's say about open wound. Whenever there's open wound, the blood is gushing. What the first thing you might do? In that case, as an herbalist and as a natural healers, we would always suggest to people to keep the area tightened up and apply a cayenne. Cayenne powder helps to stop the bleeding. It's absolutely incredible. I've seen many cases when you see the blood is gushing, you obviously want to hold it tight, but then apply a cayenne and continue holding tight. Now, cayenne is incredible because it's also kind of an antiseptic. It will burn a little bit. I cannot say it will not burn, but it's a good burning, a warm burning, which is really good. And it also will help to spread the blood. So that way the bleeding will stop. And usually I say count till 10 and you see the bleeding will stop. And that usually happens.
Is
So
that
it's very,
something you would do for a deeper cut as well, or just more surface cuts like scrapes and like not like let's say someone is chopping vegetables and cuts like a very deep cut on the finger. Is that something you would do for a deep cut as well, or
yes,
just
yes,
a shallow
yes,
cut?
yes. All the cuts you want to right away, whenever you see the blood, is the best to apply cayenne. That's from my experience. I've seen it works absolutely incredible. Now, then the next thing I would suggest is to most people, what they do is they apply antiseptic, or they apply antibiotic over the area. And that's the biggest problem, because as I said before, the body knows how to heal itself if you provide the proper tools. When you provide such an aggressive cream like antibiotic, it actually can aggravate the situation, because you kill good and bad guys together. So I suggest not to run this way, but after applying cayenne, the next thing to keep the wound clean is to use iodine. Now you can use a simple Lugol's iodine, you can use my infinite iodine, it doesn't matter, any iodine you have. But iodine is absolutely incredible, will helps to clean the wounds. Hey, doctors use it before they put the person into surgery and cut some pieces from. So
Right.
basically the idea is that you need
Yeah,
to
it's
keep.
used in modern medicine as well. Iodine is a
Right, they
great,
just use a little bit different iodine, but we like
right.
to use a good iodine. So the iodine and cayenne will be one of the first ones. Cayenne will help to stop the bleeding, and the iodine will keep the area clean. Now, many people suggest hydrogen peroxide. I found there is no need for hydrogen peroxide. I found there is no need. You just use a iodine, you're cleaning the area very well, and it's absolutely incredible. And the next thing that it will come to the wounds, if it's, do not be afraid once people, uh, even if you get from nail scrap, what they would suggest is that you take a shot, a tetanus shot. That's absolutely ridiculous. Do not fall as a trap into it. There is no need for any shots. As I said before, body knows what to do. You just have to clean the area, keep the area clean. And there's a few other more herbs that I might use. Another one is a golden seal, but it contains berberine, and berberine is important antiseptic. It's incredible as well.
Would you
But
do a
let's say if you
golden
don't
seal
have
tincture? A tincture?
golden seal tincture or in a powder, it depends also on the wound, but
Okay.
it's absolutely incredible. So those stuff people should have on hand. And the one, and it's not the only one, but silver hydrosol is another one that's also very good and very helpful. And I also would like to say, whenever you get a scrap, you also want to help your body. And it's not that we only work on external wound, we also take internally some herbs. And for me, echinacea is my way to go, because it really helps to boost your immune system and kind of tell your body, okay, we got the scratch, now it's time to take care of it. So I found echinacea is like my first thing to go. So
Well,
that's
I
that's
just want
kind
to
of.
clarify a quick question because I do want people to be able to follow steps if they look back, right? So I get a cut, whether it be deep or on a surface level, like a scraped knee or whatever, you're dealing with a child or even just an adult. You know, I'm prone to falling a lot, so I get a nice amount of scrapes and scratches and whatnot. So if there's excessive bleeding after you've applied pressure, put on some cayenne and continue to apply pressure. Do you wash the cayenne off with water once the
Mm,
bleeding is stopped before putting iodine, or no?
no, not necessarily need
Not
to.
necessarily. So you still have the powder. After that's done,
You
you
just
would
wash it off with the iodine.
with
You
the
don't flush it
iodine,
out, right?
and then
And
and
what?
then clean off the area. Would you, in a case of a deeper cut, would you then wrap it up?
Well,
Um,
now it's really depends what the person, how deep the cut is. If obviously they needs to be stitched, that's already a different issue. But we're speaking about the simple, like you said, the wounds like those.
but I want to
Um,
know. Well, I mean, cuts and scrapes can. That's why I said there's so many levels to a cut, right? Like the
exactly.
depth
But
of a
the
cut.
basic ones, the basics ones are usually will be
So
the
not something extremely deep that would require stitches.
even if it requires stitches and there is still bleeding, you want to apply cayenne, because you
Okay.
want to help the
Stop the
body.
bleeding.
Yeah, stop the bleeding, and it's very good as antiseptic as well. And as I
Okay.
said, it's also rich in vitamin C, so that's very good as well. So I
Okay.
found the cayenne is absolutely
So
incredible.
you would have someone, even if they contacted you, follow these steps, and then if they require stitches, go off and get some stitches, but still follow these steps.
Yep.
After the skin is stitched together, would you still suggest using the iodine and like a golden seal, like you said, or a
In that
silver
case,
hydrosol?
yes, in that case, you want to continue applying iodine. You also want to apply some golden seal. It's wonderful. Um, and yeah, so
The
usually
silver
this is
hydrosol,
the
I know that they
path.
come in a spray, a tincture, like a dropper, or a gel form. So you would suggest either of the
Gel,
three?
not so much. I would suggest in a liquid form. It's better.
Liquid form is
Yeah.
better. Okay. Just
And
wanted
also
to
take
clear
it
it up.
internally. And yeah, and also take it internally. That's another
Yes,
thing.
because it can boost your immune system as well as echinacea to help boost your immune system while your body your body has the opportunity to avoid an infection, right?
Right. And another thing that it's very important whenever there is a wound, um, try to keep the area open as much as you can. Obviously, times when if you have to go to work or if it's a child and needs to go to daycare, for the first day, I would keep the child at home. Just make sure the wound is not getting infected. And just, it's very important because many parents, what they do, they just bandage it and then they send the child
Right.
to the school. It's a big, big mistake because you don't know what's happening. And if you have the same bandage for a couple hours, old bandage, or even for day and a half, that bandage is already a place for a breeding bacteria. And I've seen cases where people went, they even they got a horrible wound exactly by working with a food processor, which chopped half of their finger, kind of. And then they really tightened up this in the hospital. And what happened is that there was no circulation. They told him not to remove the bandage for 2 days. She didn't remove. On the third day, there was already a bacteria breeding. It's very important to keep the wound open. It's number one rule for everyone. Do not be afraid. We need an oxygen,
And
and
if
your
you're out
skin
and
needs an
about and you
oxygen.
are and you are bandaging it, keep extra bandage stuff with you so that you can constantly change it, is what you're saying, right?
Change it, but once you get to the place where you know there is no dirt or there is no
You don't have
if
come in
you don't
contact. Yeah.
exactly, if you're home and you really can be careful, then open it and let the skin do what is
Breathe.
designed to do, to
Yeah.
breathe. Yes.
Okay. Sarah, I want you to add to that, please, if you have any additional suggestions on top of it. If you could cover, should an infection start to happen, what can we do?
Yeah, so I actually have a real world case study if you'd like.
I'd love it. No,
So I was
absolutely.
over, I might
I
as well
love
use
it.
myself as an example
I love
because
it.
I was just over at my friend's house and I was cutting an avocado and taking the pit out. And
Oh,
I was using a knife that was much too short, so it was my own fault. And I sliced my thumb, and it wasn't even a week ago, and it's already healed. And I can tell you exactly what I did because it was a semi-deep wound and it's right on my thumb. You can kind of see it here. And I sliced it kind of, you know, I sliced it like
Ay, ay, ay.
I could have taken a whole hunk of my thumb off.
wow.
Of course, the pain response helps, right? So we stop because when
Right.
we get the pain. So I personally, with a wound, I don't mind it bleeding for a little while because that actually will help if there is any bacteria in there, if there's any dirt that you're, say if you're, it was like a garden tool or something, it will actually help get the dirt
Clean.
out of there. But you don't obviously want it to bleed for too long. And I usually just apply pressure to stop the bleeding.
Right.
But what you really want to do is make sure that wound is clean.
Yes.
And so just to go through that process really quickly, a scraped knee, you definitely want to get the dirt out. Yeah, it hurts. I would apply one application of hydrogen peroxide for, say, a scraped knee. For this instance, it's really not. It was a very clean wound. I didn't really need to do that. The next day, I think I just did a little bit just to see how dirty it was. It didn't bubble really. So I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. you overuse hydrogen peroxide, you actually inhibit the healing process. So we definitely do
Right.
not want to use it more than a one-off. Um, but clean the wound and then apply pressure. And I didn't really put anything on it until the next day. And what I ended up doing is I actually make a antibiotic salve. I'm very fond of the resins. So I like myrrh, frankincense, and if you've ever heard of dragon's blood,
Mm-hmm.
excellent. Excellent as an antimicrobial. And so that's what I use instead of the neosporins, or even cayenne as an antimicrobial or any of the other. I have a salve with just those resins in it, and it works so good. And so I put that on, then I put the Band-Aid on, and because, we're washing dishes and we're doing all the things every day, all the time, I was changing the bandage twice a day because you don't want it to be wet. You want that wound to start to heal and before you ever let the air get to it, because if that wound is open, you don't want it to stay open. You want to keep it covered until it starts to heal. I didn't pull off that band-aid for probably 3 days, and by then, because I was applying another type of salve to heal it up quicker, it healed up quite quickly. But if I start to see infection in there, I would absolutely, you want to change the Band-Aid, obviously. Um, you're going to inspect it. You're going to see where it's red, see where that infection is. Try to get in there with just the simple soap and water to clean it out again. That is so imperative. And then put your antibacterial salve on it at least twice a day. Change the bandage twice a day. And then what I did later on is, I mean, my friend was like, "You need stitches." I said, "No, it's fine." It really wasn't. It was pretty deep, but it wasn't that deep, you know. And then like after the antibiotic salve, when it was applied a couple of days later, I looked at it. I'm like, "There's no way it's going to get infected." And this is what I would suggest other people do. As long as you know that there's no infection going on, then you can apply herbs that actually will heal the tissues. So I use a combination of comfrey and plantain, and I also use anti-inflammatories like calendula, and I have the myrrh and I think it's frankincense I use in another salve. I'm really fond of those. Like you love cayenne, Hava, I love frankincense and myrrh, and I'm not even Catholic.
So if someone can't get a hold of your salve, let's say the antibacterial one, is there an herb? Like, would you apply a poultice to an area
Yeah,
of
so
those herbs? Or like, could you, well, I mean, if it's an extremely deep cut, any kind of poultice of herbs ground up can get into the cut. And if it's not properly cleaned up. So like, how would you suggest someone go about it if they don't have the salves available?
just soap and water. I
Just
would
soap
just
and
use
water,
soap and
keep it
water,
clean.
clean it really good, and make sure that Band-Aid is good and apply pressure so it's not going to bleed bleed consistently.
Right,
I
right.
mean, a lot of people have cayenne in their or in their spice cabinet. You can do an antimicrobial tea. Say if you don't have cayenne, but you could do a tea. You could
And
make a
spray it
tea.
on the area. So
Yeah,
even if
like
it's like
with
a huge cut on your forearm,
yeah.
whatever, I'm just,
You
yeah.
remember the spray when we were kids? It was that spray. What was it called? Doesn't matter. You could make a tea with thyme, oregano, rosemary. You can put your pizza seasoning in some warm water, strain it out really well, and even put it in a spray bottle or take a gauze pad and apply it, scrape, cut, whatever, and just dribble it in there for like 10 minutes or so, dry it off really well, put a clean band-aid on it. So, I mean, there's a ton of stuff I mean, if you like herbs, that is, I mean, sometimes I'm surprised how many people don't use herbs in their cooking and stuff, but I'm sure people have at least thyme in there or
Right,
rosemary. Those are very, very good antimicrobials, and they don't inhibit the healing process, which is really important to say.
right,
So that's what I did for my cut. That's what I've done a billion times for my kids when they scrape their knees or whatever. The 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 most important thing is to make sure it's clean, because
Right.
if it's not clean, it's going to hurt the next day really bad, and then you're going to have a harder time cleaning it because then the immune
Right.
cells come in and all things start, it gets inflamed and then whatever.
Right, because the skin seals itself pretty fast, especially if the area is clean. If it's a cut that needs that's deeper. Like I sliced my finger once with like a can when I was opening a can. I don't know why. I was in such a rush cooking for so many people for a barbecue. And I think I was opening a can of beans because I was cheating. And like, it's like I'm not cooking beans right now. And
Yeah.
I grabbed it to open it because who does that even? I don't. I don't know why I did it. I usually stick like a fork in or a spoon or a knife or whatever and open the can. But I didn't do that. I totally stuck my hand in there, got such a deep cut, so deep. It was bad.
Ooh.
Cleaned it out with soap and water. I couldn't stop. I had people coming, like about 50 people coming over to my house. Wrapped it really tightly with a clean band-aid, put two gloves on, continued cooking. Once the cooking was done, or even throughout, new glove, new band-aid, continue, and then made sure it was dry, let it air out for a couple hours before bed, put a new band-aid on so that it could seal itself, right? So that it can stay closed. After a day or two, it was like, you know, literally
Right.
after 5 days, completely healed. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, the area was tender because the deep tissues have to do the process, but usually on a surface part, even if you get a really large scrape, a good chunk of your skin comes off, you'll get that scabbing layer first, and then the inside will take a little bit of it's a longer process for your body. But if, like Hava said, you're boosting your immune system. Obviously, you're drinking a good amount of water because skin needs water to properly heal as well. So if you're keeping hydrated and your body's clean inside, your body will do the correct, the proper job. But
Absolutely.
pouring uh-huh.
I just want to add too, I mentioned comfrey leaf, which is a very, very powerful tissue healer, and
So
we
good.
never
Yeah.
use that on a deep wound.
Yeah.
We don't want to seal up, we don't want to seal up the outside until
Right.
the inside looks like it's okay. It passes like, your
Infection test.
inspection. Right,
Right.
exactly. So I
Right.
I
just
have
mentioned that.
here
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
one case. I just wanted to share
Move it over,
something.
move it over that way. Block your
Oh,
face.
that's
Yeah.
pretty. That looked like my thumb the other day.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So this one was this finger was also chopped.
Yeah.
And yes, and they in the hospital they applied pressure. She almost lost her finger because I have images
It looks
where her
just like
finger
mine did.
was absolutely black.
Oh my God.
Move it over. Cover your face. Yeah. Wow.
Oh my God, that looks terrible.
But
But
that's what the hospital did.
That's way too
this
much
is what
pressure.
happened after they contact me after the whole finger got inflamed. I was all black. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So in that case, when you
Circulation.
see the beauty of knowing what to do, how you knew what to do.
Yeah.
So that's the whole, like, that's the beauty of it, that people get into fear.
Yeah.
But if we would keep the area clean, and we would just even, what I used in this case is yarrow. I asked her to
Yeah.
purchase yarrow on Amazon and soak the finger in the yarrow tea, and also drink yarrow a little bit internally.
Yeah.
But by doing hot treatments like that, that's really helped her to bring in clean the wound and start restoring.
Circulation.
So that's
Yeah.
I wanted to show you
Thank
exactly on
you.
your
That was
case. This is
gross.
what happens when people
Yeah, that was
get into
gross.
fear. She almost lost her finger. That's
That's
how bad it
crazy
was.
how tight that bandage was. That's
It was
insane.
so tight. And the interesting part is that we put so much trust in the medical doctors. Not that I'm saying not to put trust, but I'm
Oh.
saying don't like, if someone, let's say, tighten up your finger and your body tells you that's too
It's
much, it's
starting to
too
hurt a
tight.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but they said no, but the doctor said I should keep now like this for 3 days. I mean, this is use your common sense.
Yeah,
And this
there's
is
a discomfort there that's beyond the cut. Your
and she
finger
went
is losing
twice to the
circulation.
treatment, and each time they put so tight, and so there was not blood flow. And because they was afraid of the infection, they actually blocked the whole flow of the area. So when I saw, the finger was black.
Oh, it's
And
awful.
that's so yeah, so that's why when we say about this stuff, the cayenne at least will help us send the new blood toward. And I want to add into everything that we mentioned here, I have someone who cut her finger, also cut her hand by doing a food or something. It was also in the holiday, and she approached to me and she said, do you know that I didn't have any of the stuff that you said, but I did have the cumin spice.
Yeah.
And she dipped the whole cutted area in the cumin spice, and it stopped the bleeding and helped to heal the wound. So
Yeah.
so people, whatever spice you have,
Yeah.
just dip your fingers
It
in.
Oh
works.
my God, I remember when I was young on the beach, like, or we were visiting my grandpa, and he lived like on in a complex that was like the beach, and they had this massive pool. And I don't remember where exactly. I think it was on the in the pool area. I sliced my leg so badly on a beer bottle, like some broken glass. My grandpa was like, "Coffee," and he poured coffee
Coffee,
right away on my
yes,
wound.
Yeah.
or tobacco
Dilator.
from
Yeah.
if people smoking, you open and you just apply over the area.
Yeah.
Right.
So, oh my gosh, so much
So like a
beautiful
ground herb, a
ideas.
ground thing, but obviously cayenne is best because not only is it going to help disinfect, it'll also disperse the blood, help with the circulation so it's not pouring out from one side. But like Sarah said, sometimes bleeding is a good thing because it's helping clean out the wound. So you want to do,
Incredible.
but if you see that it's obviously too much, apply the pressure, apply the herbs, keep it clean, put some of the herbs that you both have recommended, but always make sure if you are bandaging to continuously change it throughout the day, 2 or 3 times, if not more, before you go to sleep. Put a new one. Make sure the area is always cleaned. If you need soap and water, do that as well. And let the area breathe once you see that you're past a day or two of, deeper wounds, a day or two, and you see that, if there is no infection starting, let it breathe out a little bit more so that the body can properly, seal the skin. Let's jump into bruising and bruises. Um, there's a there's obviously you can hit your body somewhere, and a bruise starts to form. I've also heard of people like, oh, I wake up with these bruises. Okay, so I want to talk about. I know that bruising can also be lack of or easily bruising can be lack of certain vitamins and minerals. So I want to discuss that as well. But let's talk about the ones that you get from hitting, from getting a hit on the area, from, physical bruises that happen from something, not just like I woke up with bruises all over me, because I've heard that many times from a lot of people. Okay, Sarah, what would you do with someone with, there's different steps of bruising, right? So, and there's ways to avoid heavy bruising. What would you do if someone, what would you suggest if there's like a very hard hit and the swelling starts, bruising will form, but how do we reduce the amount of bruising, or what do we do once the bruise is formed?
Yeah. I mean,
Take it away.
bruises are certainly an injury, and it's for a lot of people it's aesthetic
Right,
after the initial pain response, right? Like
right,
days later. But if it's a hard hit and it starts to swell a lot, so a bruise is called a hematoma, and it's essentially internal bleeding. You have
right.
these little capillaries in your skin that will burst if your skin is under duress. Enough pressure will break those capillaries and you'll get bleeding internally. And usually, a little bit of ice is not a bad idea in this case. But I'm not a big ice fan in general with any kind of injury, but a little bit of ice is okay. Clearly, if it's a burn, you want to put ice on. But if it's a fair amount of swelling, a little ice would be nice. certainly want to inspect the area to make sure it's not a break, if it's not, especially if there's a lot of swelling. Sometimes if you hit something hard enough, it's not just the skin that's damaged. You could have actually a bone that's broken. I've done that before. Um, but in general, I would I mean, if the bruise comes and someone doesn't want the bruise there, I have a
Well,
bruise
bruises
oil.
can be extremely painful as well.
It
So
can. And so
how do you get rid of bruising quickly?
yeah, so the ice is really nice to reduce the inflammation and reduce the pain because the inflammation is causing pressure and that damaged tissue is going to hurt. So ice is a good idea, but the herbs that I like, because I make a bruise oil, and these are herbs that aren't typically found in your spice cabinet, but you could probably try cumin, coriander for that too, who knows? But I use lobelia oil and I use arnica oil and there's like a few other things in the oil. I think there's yarrow in there. But I forget offhand exactly what's in the oil, but I would apply the oil. And so what lobelia does and what arnica does is arnica will actually help reduce the pain and inflammation and lobelia will help disperse the blood that's there that forms the bruise. So that can be applied anytime after the incident and applied often to just help facilitate dispersion of that blood so it doesn't form this ugly bruise and it will just kind of reabsorb back into the body super quickly and I've had people use it and say I can't believe how quickly the bruises disappeared but between those two herbs you can make like a trauma oil. I mean, think about this discussion right now and all the things you can put in your first aid kit for these
Right. And we
instances.
have done a podcast on how to create oil infusions and alcohol infusions. So anybody that's listening that, doesn't have access or able to purchase, is this something you sell on your site, by the way?
I don't think it's on my site, but it's certainly something I have in the apothecary.
Okay, so I
Um,
mean, someone could give you a call regardless if they
yeah,
wanted to have this in their
sure.
first aid. If not, if they're not able to and they want to make it themselves, circle back to our podcast on how to make your own medicines because we did talk about that where you just let the herb infuse, you cover it completely, you let it sit for 2 weeks, strain it, and then use that oil and you have a healing oil. So
Yeah,
someone could very well purchase yarrow, arnica, and lobelia herb and make their own trauma oil or bruise oil that's good for pain, inflammation, bruising. Um,
yeah,
all those, it covers all those the three herbs that you mentioned.
yeah.
So please, we want to encourage, the reason why we do these podcasts is not just to sit here and talk. We want you to learn. We want you to be able to take notes and actually try to start applying things into your daily life. So whether it be stocking, because a lot of these herbs, a ton of these herbs that we've mentioned throughout all of our podcasts, they return for different reasons. So whether it be Hava mentions cayenne for everything. So just make sure you go and buy some cayenne pepper. You have mentioned there's like so many herbs that you have mentioned, especially yarrow has been mentioned on almost every other podcast. Golden seal has been mentioned plenty of times. There's a lot of herbs that we mentioned so many times that are useful for a lot of different things. So buy these herbs, keep them in a well sealed bag, and you can use them when you need to. Especially the ones that are repeated so many times because they're useful for a ton of different things. So I,
Yeah,
I really want to make that point.
and I love that point. That's so important, Nicole. And, just start jotting down notes when you listen to us and start building your herbal apothecary. And on the jar itself, you can write what you would be using that herb for to help
Right.
you remember.
Right.
Just write on the jar, tape it right on the jar, what the name of the herb is, and all the applications. You don't have to do all of them, but just like a main, main points about that herb, and that will remind you on how to use it.
Yeah, and even if like into 5 podcasts from now we mention something else, add it onto that list. You don't have to like every time if it's something that's stuck. Let's say 5 podcasts ago you heard something, you want that herb, purchase it, keep it handy for an emergency or a time of need. Every time that herb is mentioned, jot it down on that jar so that you can really make a difference in your household for yourself, your family, whoever it is, loved ones that you want to recommend things to, because these herbs are really universal in healing the body, and so they work in many different ways. So if you're taking it for one thing, it might actually help you with another thing as well. That's the beauty about herbs. Your body says, ooh, I need some, give me that. Not like medication where you're taking it solely for one issue and then it causes more issues down the line. Herbs heal. They don't just remove a symptom, they heal your body because it gives it the help that it needs, because our body does such a fantastic job of taking care of itself and doing things naturally, but we just need a little bit of a boost here and there, because we don't treat our bodies properly with everything that's going on in our lives, the food that we eat, the water that we drink, the toxicity that's around us constantly, the clothes that we wear. So taking herbal remedies really heals the body. It does a lot more than just reduce a symptom that brings on others if you're taking pharmaceuticals, right? So that's just my little note to our viewers there, that I really want you to take to heart. And please start stocking on things that you've heard constantly on our podcast. Okay, Hava, bruising.
Yeah. Okay. So very simple. I would suggest to have an arnica on hand, and arnica in homeopathic remedy, like a small pellets, and have an arnica as a cream. Now that can be as a gel, it can be as a cream. It's something that it's very important, because once you see the bruises, the best thing is to apply arnica frequently. That's what many people don't understand. The herbs like to be applied frequently. So let's say if you apply golden seal, you apply golden seal. If you apply arnica, you reapply arnica, reapply, specifically because arnica really helps in those bruises and really helps to calm down everything. And also arnica internally really helps. So, but we do not take it internally. We suggest it to take as a homeopathic remedy. And I've seen many, many cases of children falling off the bike and suddenly the bruise is coming. So you do apply cold, and then you also apply arnica and give the pellets. Now, how much? I think you can find the 30C, if I'm not mistaken, in any
30C
health
is
food store.
typically
Right, in
sold, yeah.
any health food store. Just go get it and have it on hand, and you'll never know, but you might need it, and it's absolutely incredible. And I've seen cases where the whole face was like deforming, and while taking the arnica and keeping cold slowly, the person was fine. So that's
Can
another
you,
one.
a lot of people that are into homeopathics that have been doing it for so long, they don't know the steps you have to take in taking that type of medication, because it's an energy. Um,
Right, that's energy. Okay, that's
but
actually a
can you
good
but can you
point.
please explain how to take it properly? Like,
Right.
I remember
So
years ago I didn't know you couldn't touch it. I want people to know, if you're taking homeopathic pellets, how to take them properly so that you actually see a result, because in a lot of cases you don't see a result because it's not taken properly.
right, because it is energetic medicine. You don't want to hold it on your hand. So the whole idea of using homeopathic is that's why they provide you a small cap, and each tablet falls into the small cap so you don't touch it. And the best thing is that you screw it, you take as much as you need, let's say 3 or 4 or 5, oh my gosh, if you took 6, nothing gonna happen. Not end of the world.
Right. It's
You can take the
diluted.
whole
It's
entire
the
thing.
herb diluted to the 1,000th.
Yeah,
So
I
you
mean,
could
so
take more.
right,
Right.
exactly. But some people like, oh, one, oh my gosh, and they don't sleep over because they took 1 pellet more. Don't be afraid. That's the beauty of it. Yes, if you took too much Tylenol, you should be afraid. But if you take 1 or 3 or 4 more pellets and there's yummy, then no worries. So the idea is that you don't touch it, you unscrew it and just put straight on your tongue. Some under the tongue, some say you can put it on the tongue and just swish it with your saliva, and it's absolutely incredible. Now, if it's for a tiny babies, we I learned this from homeopathic doctor. You do not touch the pellets. You put them in a small. You just let them dissolve a little bit in the water, and then you give the baby with a dropper. So no touching, dissolving in the water, few tablets. And if it's a newborn, okay, so then you pump up your milk, you mix a little bit those pellets till you no longer see them, and then you give as a dropper to the baby. There is a couple ways you can do it. But the idea is not to touch. It's not a regular tablet that you can hold in your hand. Thank you so much for
And then
for
also, it is suggested not to drink or eat 15 to 20 minutes
right,
before taking it and 15 to 20 minutes after taking it
right,
because it's an energy medication, which a lot of people don't really understand what that is. But it's almost like a Bach remedies where it's infused with the full with the moon outdoors. There's a lot, and don't, it's not that we don't believe in it. I highly believe in this medication if it's taken properly. Um, and
right.
even Bach
But
remedies are wonderful if
I
taken
agree.
properly.
I
So we
agree,
just want to make
Nicole.
sure you're taking it properly.
I agree. But I want to also mention that if someone has another bruise that it's growing and they just been eating some snack, you're not gonna say, okay, we'll wait 15 minutes till
Right,
your
right,
bamba will
right,
of your snack will go down your
Right.
give it right away. Okay, use it.
right,
I'm telling you, because what we're saying, really people take it seriously, and they might think, because I'm not allowed to take it, so they're gonna sit and wait 15 minutes, and those 15 minutes are the most crucial time to
right,
take care of the issue. But
right,
yes, for the long term, whenever you use homeopathic medicine, yes, you need to give a
right.
space. But whenever there is, just use the common sense. And I found in our times, we must be common sense, because
We
otherwise,
must teach it. Yeah,
yes,
it's lost on
I
the public.
know, because
But yeah,
people
so
will
but if someone
fear.
doesn't have pellets and they do have the cream gel, whatever in arnica form, or even the herb, make
Application
yeah
every 5
application,
minutes.
or even make a tea out of it. Could that be used if I have the arnica herb and I haven't made the infusion of the oil yet?
The preferred one is to, yes, you can, but use it maybe with some ice, because you don't want to apply heat. When you get
Right,
bruised, there is already heat in there. And if you apply more heat, that's not, you want to cool the
right,
stuff down. Usually, in most cases like this, you want to cool, you want to calm it down. So even if you have an aloe vera plant, cut some piece from there, open up, stick the gel over the head, and it will be amazing. And I usually suggest to have aloe vera cut it, chopped in your freezer. I suggest to have a charcoal poultice in your freezer. So whenever stuff like that happen, you already prepared.
right,
Okay. So another thing I will mention is about arnica, arnica pellets, everything that Sara mentioned. And I suggest another one more thing with the charcoal poultice. You can learn this how to prepare it on my Instagram page. It's very simple. And this is already prepared one. And then let's say you see the bruise or whatever it is, you're gonna cut the piece, rush. Oh my gosh, I'm in fear. You cut it into the piece like this, or the size of the bruise, whatever. Now that's good because it's frozen, cold. Cold is good. As long it's not open wound, you don't want to apply charcoal on the open wound, not specifically, but that's why I didn't mention it. And I tell you the story why. And this we go. apply it over the head or whenever the bruise is, and cold will calm it down, will help to keep the area clean, and charcoal will do its own magic. So you have arnica, you have charcoal poultice, you have aloe vera, and everything that Sara mentioned. So yeah, amazing. Perfect.
Great. Great. Amazing. Okay. Very happy. Nothing to add, Sarah?
Well, just you had mentioned why people bruise a lot. Should we
All
go?
Right.
right.
Oh my gosh,
Do
I've
we
totally
want to
forgot
do that?
about that. Yes, no, I do want to. Well, because it's part of our skin,
Yeah.
things come up. So people have to understand that sometimes the skin is the last layer of defense, or the body's like, I've had enough. I'm extricating, like it's coming out of my skin. I'm showing you the sign on your body physically, because internally I've had enough and I want you to see the sign. Our body gives us signs. Some people don't understand that these signs, whether they be a rash or even skin cancer, we're going to talk about those signs on the skin in a different podcast. But yes, bruising, that's random, right? Where you don't recall hitting your body, or you've just didn't have the bruise the night before you went to sleep, you woke up with some kind of a bruise. what what is that? Why does that happen to the body?
Well, first and foremost, maybe you want to get a camera in your room so you can see what the hell you're doing at night.
And if you're
um,
sleeping with someone that's kicking you at night.
so I have a child that when she was younger, she had bruises all over her legs because she was just like running and jumping and climbing trees, and it's like, that's kind of normal for kids who are outside. But I used to bruise really easily, and it was just like I would hit my, very gently on something, and the next day I'd have a bruise. Well, that's vitamin C deficiency, straight up. Just
Right. Yeah.
vitamin C, you're not eating enough kiwis. Because what happens is vitamin C is a bioflavonoid, and it's very important in order for you to have like integrity in your connective tissues. So when you bruise easy, it's because the skin and the capillaries, they're just not, they're kind of weakened because they're not given all the nutrients they need to be strong and healthy and elastic and have some kind of integrity. So vitamin C, you need at least two.
What's a couple of natural forms of vitamin C? What
Yeah,
are
so
some herbs that
kiwi.
are high?
Well,
Kiwi.
I mean, I just suggest people, if they like kiwis, two a day is perfect.
I've
But
but recently I've heard of a lot of people that are allergic to kiwi. Can you give
yeah,
us an
right.
herb suggestion?
Correct. Yeah. So I like kiwis for that. Obviously oranges, lemons, things like that. But as far as the herb world, there's a lot of herbs. Like rose hips has a fair amount.
Right.
And if you use the Rosa multiflora, that has the most vitamin C of any rose hip. I also like hibiscus has a fair amount. Goji berries, acerola
Camu,
cherry, camu
camu.
Camu.
camu, anything in the fruit genre. And there's a lot of
Okay.
different, super fruit powders out there, acai berry, and I make a combination. I call it and you have to say it like that, right? Acai.
Açaí,
Acai,
People
yes.
açaí.
come in and go, I want some acai berry. I'm like, you mean acai berry. I have that. So I have a combination of stuff, and I actually make what's called vitamin boost, and I put like goji berries and rose hips and acerola cherry and acai berry in there with a little honey, and I have the dosage because I've done a little bit of math, so you can get the right milligrams a day. You want a few thousand milligrams, in my opinion, of vitamin C a day. I don't know what kiwis has, but it's right up there. Oranges have a fair amount, but because they have a lot of they're not quite as dense as a kiwi. They have a lot more juice and water as compared to a kiwi. So that's why I always say kiwis. But and I
Right.
mean, I'm not going to sit here and like do the math and compare acerola cherry to the goji berry.
No.
But
But
but,
there,
but
like
if
you
you're
said,
getting
there
some of
are.
that in your diet every day, you
Right. There are
probably
some really good brands in powder form. So if you are lacking in vitamin C, do not take the synthetic. We're not talking about anything synthetic. You want to take it the natural way. There are some good brands that do sell it in all these berries dried and ground up, that you can either throw it into water or make, like, little candies out of it, mixing it with honey. But yeah, highly recommended. That's
Yeah,
where I
and
was
just
going with the whole why am I bruising so easily?
right.
But
And just as an aside too, many people say, well, there's a couple of things. Many practitioners say ascorbic acid, which is probably what you're considering the yucky kind.
right, yeah, exactly.
A lot of people say that's just fine. And I don't know if that's true. I personally think that you should get all your nutrition food based, which is
Right.
And
obviously what we're going to tout here. And so you want to be sure that your vitamin C says from acerola cherry or from
exactly.
rosehip.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
want it to just say straight up ascorbic acid because then we're talking lab made, synthesized,
Foreign.
highly synthesized from who knows what.
From who knows what. Yeah.
I don't know.
China
But
corn.
what? With
China corn.
did you say China corn?
Yes,
Yeah. Say no to China corn. I mean,
exactly.
straight up, just no, none of that. And so secret words would be ascorbic acid.
Yeah.
Means China corn.
Right. Avoid that.
Avoid that.
Avoid.
So
Yeah.
anyway, I just wanted to say
Abort. Right.
that.
No, I wanted to make sure that our viewers, when we're suggesting upping your minerals or vitamins, we're always suggesting it in a food form or in an herb form because your body knows how to break that down the easiest and knows what it's doing when it's eating or taking those things. And so you're best sticking to the non-synthetic lab grown kind that we don't know what it's made out of. So synthetic bad, natural good.
Good.
We want to make that clear.
China corn bad.
Right, unicorn bad. Okay, so let's go. Do you see why we're breaking down skin into so many things? Because like we've been talking for such a long time now, and we haven't even like gotten. God,
We're
I really
almost
wanted.
like
I
towards the
wanted
end.
more time for burns because
Oh.
burns. Let's just, if we're going over, we're going over. I
Well, we
don't
have
care.
6 minutes. We have like 6 minutes, so we won't be over because we
Well,
started.
Burns is a big topic. I think we will be a little bit over, but I think we can let it swing with this one because there are many different types of burns. I personally, with Hava's help, healed a second degree burn. I've seen her do third degree burns too. Obviously, if we're talking about a massive part of the body, you do sometimes need help from emergency services. Not sometimes, you do. We have a case here in Los Angeles of a poor 10-year-old girl whose entire body was burned from yeah, because she was wearing a synthetic clothing that went up in flames.
Oh.
It's very, very sad. She's still dealing with a lot of issues, even months down the road. But we do want you to know that okay, you got even a handprint size burn on your body, so somewhere in your body. There's different types of burns, ones that are just tiny surface burns, first degree, second degree, and third degree. Let's talk about first degree first. What are some suggestions, Sarah, for a first degree burn?
Yeah, I mean, I would only do first or second degree burns anyway. As a practitioner, I'm not comfortable with anything over that. Second degree is even pushing it, depends on how much of the body is affected. I don't
Right.
know.
We're talking about maximum like a 7 inch
Yeah. So,
area.
I mean, just what I would do for myself with any burn, I'm applying ice right away.
Mhm.
Right.
The quickest you can apply ice and keep it on there, the least amount of damage you will do to the underlying tissue.
Right.
Cold, cold,
So
cold,
keep it cold. Keep
keep
it extremely
cold.
cold.
And I have a couple of thoughts on that. Um, because I burn my hands a lot when I reach into the stove because I'm just like, I can do it.
My God, my
Instead of
wrists
pulling
are
out
just
the thing.
now healing
Yeah,
front and back
always right
from the
here, right?
oven.
And
Right.
it's seemingly because the skin is so thin on the hands that I mean I have a few scars you can't see them, but I mean I can tell they're there. But it's interesting because the skin is so thin that it will swell and get infected very, very easily. Burns can get infected very easily. So that's the biggest thing. So for the initial trauma, it's ice. And for as long as you can stand it, put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off. apply aloe. Aloe is excellent for burns, it takes away the heat, and it will help heal. I would also suggest antimicrobial, salves like like the antimicrobial one, the antibiotic one that I make with the dragon's blood and the resin. I also have this calendula gel. Calendula, it's a flower. Um, and you can do a tea with it, but this is a I think it's a homeopathic gel that I just use straight up for any burns. It's amazing. And that's something that everyone should have
The
in their
calendula gel.
yeah, and I believe it's like a homeopathic I think
It
it's
is. I believe it's no. It is, and they also this brand that you're thinking of sells the arnica one as well.
yeah, it's like a
And
homedics. So I would apply ice and then aloe or the calendula gel or both. And then you want to just and I've even gone so far as for some of the burns is if they start to swell and look infected, I add a saltwater poultice. So I just do salt in water for, I don't know, 20 minutes, a couple of times a day, depending on how angry it looks. And then you want to keep it covered because you don't want it to dry out and get the air to it, especially in the acute phase. So the salt water would be applied only if infection is imminent, and then all those other things for the
but
acute.
would you cover it with the gauze if that because the skin is so tender and punctured and like whatnot, gauze can typically stick onto the skin. Like, what would you do? Would you put
You would do a
an
salve.
aloe vera or
You could
yeah, some kind of okay.
Yeah, and you don't want to keep it covered. If it starts to heal, you can let it, it's like a wound that you would have, like on my thumb.
Like a
You
cut,
don't
right?
want to get bacteria in it, and especially in the initial phases, and you can just slather the salve on and the gauze won't stick to it.
Right.
But changing those bandages several times a day, depending on how bad it is.
Severe, right?
So that's what I've done for, moderate burns. Nothing. I don't do severe burns because then really if you get down to the different layers of the skin, you can really get a bad infection, and that's not something that I would want comfortably. Maybe Hava would. But I comfortably anything too severe, I'm just like no, no.
Yeah.
With
Hava, what
other
do you
people.
suggest? What do you suggest?
I actually, in this case, I might a little bit disagree with Sarah about the ice. I would just use cold water instead of ice. I found that it's too much on the area, and actually, when we apply um, ice, that can warm up the area warm. Like it's same like if we jump now in the cold lake. In the beginning, we feel cold, but when we come out, then suddenly we'll feel a lot of heat coming our way. So I usually suggest cold water, not to really do frozen ice or frozen water or but just cold running cold water, and you keep it there till you feel the area is no longer feels this heat. So that's one of the things. The rest I all agree.
Well, I
Okay,
would
the
put what I
next.
want to say too. I would put the ice in like in a cloth. I wouldn't just stick
Right.
their hand on the ice. So
Right. Okay. Yep. I just learned this from a couple of people, and especially in the like how it's called, like an emergency care, where they said they usually would suggest ice, but they no longer suggest ice. The best is just the cold water, running cold water. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so then the next thing is obviously to observe what the hell happened there. Now, if it's a very severe burn, then in these cases, yes, I agree with Sarah that you have to be very careful and the area should not get infected, because then we are dealing with a much bigger issue. But if you know how to keep the area clean, then I would suggest the next is to use aloe vera in inner leaf, right? I 100% agree with you. And that's why I also keep frozen aloe leaves in the freezer, which is really good. But when you apply it, it's after you already wash the area and the area is clean, and then you can apply the aloe vera. Or
What are
even
you
if
washing it with? Just water?
you keep the burned area under the water.
I understand that. Let's say it's day 2 and I want to reapply something. What do I
No,
do?
no,
Just
no.
wash?
It's not day 2. The first
This is
thing
just
that when you
immediate. Okay, so after
immediate you keep
washing.
the water. The
Okay.
next what you do is you apply either aloe vera. Then I have a couple of things here written down because I get this a lot on my Go Healthy chat. So if you don't mind, I'll just go over a couple of those. So then next one is to do is honey. Honey is antibacterial and absolutely healing. You can mix a little bit honey with vitamin E and apply over the area. You can just apply honey, but if you apply honey, you cannot put any bandage on top. You do this mistake, that's done. Because what you have to do is once you apply honey, you have to apply some sort of a leaves. You can use a cabbage leaf, or you open your refrigerator, and if you have a spinach leaves, just put a spinach leaf above the honey. So that way the honey will do its own magic, will keep the area clean, and it will not get infected, but the area will be covered. And if you tell me, Hava, I don't have a spinach, that's too fancy, but I do have a lettuce. Just use the lettuce. Apply the lettuce over the area, but keep the area clean. Okay, the next thing that I suggested is the cabbage leaves are very good. Next is the charcoal poultice is absolutely incredible. Where's Sara gone? Charcoal
Who's here?
poultice. Are you here, Sara? Okay, charcoal poultice is incredible in this case, but if the burn is very deep, you do not use charcoal because the charcoal actually might go down deep, and then when the cells will start healing, then we're in trouble. You might get a tattoo. So that's a big issue. Next thing is a silver gel. Application of the silver gel non-stop. Blah, 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 blah. Silver gel. Apply, 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 apply all the time. Next thing you can do if you don't have none of the stuff that we mentioned, crack an egg and use the egg white and apply over the burn. Now the egg white is absolutely incredible. It will cover the burn and will start healing. Another one is the clay. If you have some clay, mix some clay with water, apply over the area. That will help to dry out the area and will start really healing and will keep the area clean. Next is witch hazel if you have. It's wonderful. Then potatoes. Potatoes are also wonderful. Just slice a piece of a potato, apply over the burn area. Helps very much to soothe and calm the area. Now, and for the very, very severe burns, obviously, I would suggest go to your doctor, find out what exactly the burn is. But then my next formula is that I learned from Dr. Christopher many years ago is it's an application of a honey, comfrey, and with germ oil. So if you can combine all those together and apply them over the burn area, keep the area clean, apply some cabbage or some other leaves, and just continue reapplying, meaning that whenever the person burns, you don't pull and clean and remove the
Aggravate, right.
honey. That's the biggest mistake people know. Because once you start pulling, you're removing the underneath what's already healing. So you have to reapply and then reapply, and it will look horrible. And I can show with you images of the severe burns where I treated one specifically case of the almond milk spilled over the whole entire hand. And we did work very hard not to keep the area get infected, which actually a little bit got infected, but then treating with iodine, I get rid of the issue. Where the doctor said we need to do some skin grafting. Yeah, no skin grafting. You just apply the cayenne, honey, and comfrey all the time over this area, and you will see that slowly it will start healing. Absolutely incredible results. And one more thing, whenever you see the bubble is forming, it's for your own good. It's not a curse. That's the way body works. The body especially makes those bruises. The body specifically doing that. If you pop it, then it's a big mistake. No, let the body to do what is designed to do. So as soon there is a bubble, don't pop it. Let the bubble do what is designed to do. Apply a poultices, any of those that I mentioned above, and then you will see an amazing healing. Yeah, and also take internally vitamin C, and like no junky vitamin C, but obviously you should take as Sara mentioned before, herbal vitamin C. I would also take drink internally yarrow. Yarrow tea is wonderful. And yeah, that's it, I think. Yeah. Oh, and then I have also tissue and bone salve that I have, but this is for the very minor burns. Like for a minor burns, you just apply tissue and bone couple times, similar to the calendula, and then it will heal. But it's very important not to apply oils with wax over this certain burned area, because if you do that, then you're basically blocking from healing. It's like applying glue over the area. Don't do it. Yeah. So I think that's pretty enough.
No, I love that. Even though we went a tiny bit over, burns are really important. There's different levels of burns. Again, if you see that it's a very severe burn, first get, and you need to get, the level figured out with your doctor. Again, if you are going to do something with a second or third degree burn that we've mentioned, you have to get help from herbal practitioner like one of you two that's willing to take on this case to help guide you throughout the process. If you're someone who hasn't dealt with it before, don't do it on your own, because again, it can easily get infected and it can scar pretty badly, and we don't want that. We want you to heal properly. So if you are going to jump into to taking care of a burn on your own, whether it be first, second, or third, we want you, not first, second, or third, really. We want you to get guidance from someone like our lovely ladies, or even one of you two. Anybody who wants to reach out to our healers, you can look them up on sarasherbs.com for Sara, havawellness.com for Hava. Um, and yeah, we didn't talk about sunburns, but again, aloe vera, great for sunburns, or if it's a burn, if you're really sunburned, you start to get those welts, uh, cool water,
Yogurt.
Rose
yogurt,
hydrosol. Oh my God, linden flower is amazing for sunburns.
right,
Amazing.
right.
It's right up
So
there with aloe. It's probably a little better than aloe, in my
and
opinion.
even some, if I recall correctly, like is it lavender essential oil can help that like
Lavender is amazing.
burning sensation, like to cool down. It cools
Yep,
down your body.
yep.
So if you're feeling that really heavy burning sensation from a really bad sunburn, go ahead and do that. I'm only saying that because this week when I was in Mexico, I got the most insane sunburn. Even though I'm
Oh.
olive skin and Middle Eastern, I can still get a sunburn because that Mexican sun, let me just tell you, it is strong. Um, and I always travel with my herbal essentials. And I kid you not, we were a group of almost 50 people on this trip, and nonstop I had people coming to my room. What do I do for the burn? And I had like a mix. I didn't have everything, but I had um,
That's cool.
vitamin E oil on me.
Yeah.
And so I put that together with the tissue and bone salve, vitamin E oil.
You see
And
the burn?
Oh,
yeah.
that's
It,
ugly.
yeah. That's a healing burn
Yeah,
already.
yeah.
Right. And so always have things on hand, especially if you're traveling as well. We want you to take notes while we do these classes so that when you're out and about, we have like our emergency prepared. We'll do an emergency preparation class or traveling course, like podcast as well, I think, like of what you don't leave the house without when you're going out of town or going somewhere. I feel like everybody needs that. I have mine always packed and ready to go. So if I'm leaving the house in a rush or I'm going out of town, that bag is ready and it goes with me everywhere. And it has everything under the sun from actual herbs and powders and even homeopathic remedies, oils, salves, drops, tinctures. You need to be prepared. And like we mentioned in the middle of this podcast, one herb is used for 100 different applications, or, not necessarily every single herb. But my point is that one herb is so versatile that you can use it for so many things. So we want you to be able to actually learn from these podcasts. And we hope you do enjoy us. And we will see you next time on Heal Yourself Naturally. We'll be going deeper into the topic of skin. And
Yes.
next, we'll be talking about things like eczema, psoriasis, hives, acne, skin cancer. So, all of those things that come out, rashes, um, all those things that come out of the skin, the body showing a sign that it's too much internal and it's coming out onto the surface, onto the skin. So we'll be talking about those things, how to treat and cure and prevent every single one of those things. I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you next time on Heal Yourself Naturally.
Hi, guys.
Bye.